Tov. Today's Daf Yomi is Bava Basra Daf Yomi Bava Basra 10. We're going to start on Tes Amabeis, 2 lines from the bottom. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says, Ko haragil aso tzedakah zocha and havil lo banim bali chachma bali osher bali agada. Whoever merits to give charity whoever is accustomed to give charity will merit to have children who are wise, wealthy, and know how to speak well. Bali Agada, Bali Chachma, if they're wise, because it says on top of Yud Amid Aleph, it says in the pasuk, it says Yimtza Chaim. It says in the verse in Proverbs that the people will find life, and this is said with respect to wisdom. And Bali Osher Dechsev, how do we know that they'll be wealthy? Because it says tzedakah in that verse, and Bali Agada because it says the kavod, that they'll have honor, and we know that people honor those who speak well. Ksiv hachol v'kavod, v'ksiv hasam kavod chachamim yinchalu. And that's how we know that they will be honored. That the honor is the honor of the chachamim. Now on top of Yud Amid Aleph, 3 lines from the top, Tanya Rabbi Meir Omer Yesh Lo Ba'al Adin Shifcha, that the person who wants to argue with you, Rash says, either a wicked person or an idolater, you have a very easy response to you, and he could say to you, Imel Kechem Ohev Aniyim, if your God really loved the poor people, if your God was a God who loved poor, Ohev Aniyim Nima Eino Mefarnasan, why doesn't he actually give them money? If God loved the poor, he wouldn't make them poor. So if he says that to you, and moreover, your response should be, because through them we want to be saved from the judgment of hell. Meaning God created poor so that we could help them. So Rabbi Eliezer explains, wait 1 second, how is this fair to the poor people? Just the opposite. The poor people have the greatest honor of all, that they're able to help us be saved from Gehenna. Vizu Sheila Shal Turnus Rufus Arasha asked Rabbi Akiva, and Turnus Rufus, the wicked one, asked Rabbi Akiva this question. So he asked him, Imel Kechem Ohev Aniyim Nema Eno Mefarnasam. He says, if your God loves the poor, why doesn't he give them money? Amar Lo. Akiva said, Kadesha Nitzo Anu B'Hamidina Shal. So Akiva gave this response: we want to be saved through them from the judgment of hell. Just the opposite. He says just the opposite. This is what forces you to go to Gehenna. I'll give you a parable. What's it like? If you have a king of flesh and blood, he was upset at his slave. He stuck him in a prison. He commanded him, don't give him any food. He said, don't give this man food. So don't give him any drink. And then a person went and he gave him food and drink to eat. Hold on. A person went, even though the king said don't give him any food and drink, a person went and gave him food and drink. When the king heard this, would he not be upset? And you're considered the slaves of God or servants of God, as it says, because the children of Israel are slaves to me or servants to me. So why are you giving them money? So Amar Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Akiva says, I'll give you a parable. What's it like? It's like a king of flesh and blood. It's like a king of flesh and blood. It's not like a king who puts his servant in prison, but it's like somebody puts his son in prison. And he wrapped him up in prison. So he said, don't give my son anything to eat or drink. And one man went and fed the king's son and gave him drink. When the king heard this, wouldn't he send him a present because he helped his son? Banan Kriyim Banim, and we're called children, as it says, Banim Atem Hashem Elokechem. We are children to God. Amaro, so Rabbi Akiva, so the Turnus Rufus, the wicked one, we're on 10a, around a third of the way down the page. He says, Atem Kriyim Banim Vikrin Adam. You're called both children and slaves. Bisman Sha'atem Osin Ritzona Shamakom, when you do the will of God, Atem Kriyim Banim, you're called children. Bisman Sha'inatem Osin Ritzona Shamakom, Atem Kriyim Rabbanim. When you don't do the will of God, you're called slaves. V'achshav, says Turnus Rufus to Rabbi Akiva, Einatem Osin Ritzona Shamakom, you're clearly not doing the will of God because you're under my rule, you're under Roman rule. So Amar Lo, Rabbi Akiva responds, Hare Omer, no, there's another verse. This is the verse that we're going to cite a lot on today's daf. This is the verse. This is the pasuk that comes from Isaiah, and the pasuk says, "Halo paros l'ravach, give out the food to the hungry, v'aniyim merudim tavi bayis, and the wailing, the poor who are wailing." That means to say that's here is referring to the Romans tavi bayis. So bring into your house. Emasai aniyim merudim tavi bayis. When is it the case that the wailing poor are coming into your house? Nowadays, because you Romans, you're trying to take all our money. You're wailing that you're poor, even though you're not. So now's the time we're supposed to give the bread to the poor. That was Rabbi Akiva's response to the Romans. Darash Rabbi. So the Gemara says, Darash Rabbi Huda by Rabbi Shalom. Kishem shemizonosav shel Adam kitzuvin lo. Rosh Hashanah, just like a person's food, how much money he's going to get is predetermined from Rosh Hashanah. Also, his losses, how much he's going to lose, is predetermined from Rosh Hashanah. So now you know you're going to have to put out from your bank account a certain amount of money. If you're smart, you'll give it to the poor. If you don't understand this, then the wailing poor will come into your house. The Romans will come and take it for themselves. There's a story about the children of the sister of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. That Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he had a dream. He had a dream, and he saw that they're going to have to spend 700 dinarim that year. Sinu. So he convinced them to give the money. He forced them. Shakal minayel tzedakah. He took that money for charity. Pushka bayo shivasar dinari. He left back 17 dinarim. Kimata mal yom kipura. When it was Yom Kippur that year, right Erev Yom Kippur, shuddered the beikizar naktinu. Say the Romans went to seize their money. Amalu Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai said because they saw them coming. He says lo titzchalun. Don't worry so much. They're only going to take 17 dinarim from you. So they were astonished. How do you know all this? I had this dream that you're going to lose this amount. So why don't you tell us so that we'll give it? Why did you force us? Why do we have to go through that whole stress? Amina, I said to myself, I wanted you to give the charity for the right reason. So I didn't tell you it was all preordained and I had a dream. So that's why. Rav Papa was walking up a ladder and he's ishtamet kare. So one of the rungs of the ladder fell. So Bailo Maple, he almost fell. Amar Hashta Kain Ichayev Man the Sunilon Kemachale Shabbat. So said, oh, I almost fell down and then I would have been liable for death, like idolater or Machal Shabbos. And what did I do wrong that I was going to get punishment, a severe punishment of stoning, just like those people? Maybe the reason you're being punished is because maybe a poor man came to your door and you didn't help him. Whoever closes his eyes from charity, it's like you're worshiping idolatry, because it's like you think God had nothing to do with you getting the money. It says over here, that says over here, be careful, meaning to say you don't help the poor. And so too it says buyal by idolaters. And so therefore, we see that it's the same thing. Tanya, Amar Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi called tzedakah v'chesed sheYisrael osim bo'am hazeh. Any charity and kindness that the Jewish people do in this world, shalom gadol praklatin gedolim ben Yisrael avin shebeshamayim, creates great peace and great interceders. Praklitin are these interceders. Rashi says melitza yosher, the angels. Anytime we do a good deed in this world, it creates angels to argue on our behalf in heaven. That's what the verse means. As it states, Kormar Hashem al tavo beit marzech v'al telech l'spod v'al tanu lahem ki asafti et shlomi meitam hazeh et hachesed v'et harachamim. I took up for my people the chesed and the rachamim. Chesed is gemilas chasad and the rachamim is tzedakah. The tzedakah. So when you do kindness and charity, it creates peace between us and God. Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Gedola tzedakah shemekareves esegula. Charity is so great it causes the redemption to come closer. It says, "Komar Hashem shimru mishpat vasut tzedakah ki krova yeshuasi." As it says in Isaiah, that watch, give charity because it will cause my salvation to come. V'tzikasi lihi galos, and my tzedakah will bring about the redemption. Boy Omer, he used to teach us that there are there were 10 very difficult things created in the world. Har, kasha, if there is a very hard mountain, barzal mechatfo, iron cuts it. Barzal kasha, if there's iron, or mefafo, fire melts it. Or kasha, mayim mechavim, water puts out the fire. Mayim kashim, avim sovlimosam, what do you do with the water? The cloud can absorb it. Avim kashim, thick clouds, ruach mefazer zerasan. The wind blows them away. Ruach kasha, you have a strong wind. Guf savor, the body can absorb a wind. Guf kasha, strong body. Pachat shavro, fear breaks the body. Pachat kasha, if you have tremendous fright. Yayin mafiga, wine gets rid of that. Yayin kasha, difficult wine. Shina mefacha chaso, sleep gets rid of it. Umisa kasha mikulam, and death is worse than all of them. Utzedakah matzelas min hamisa, and charity saves us from death, as it says in the verse in Proverbs. Utzedakah tatzal mimavis, charity saves from death. Darash Rabbi Dustai by Rabbi Yanai Boreish. Look at me, this Kadosh Baruch Hu midas basar adam. God's attributes are not like a man's attributes. Midas basar adam. Maybe Daron Gadol Melch Safik Mekabanoso Imenu Safik Emekabanoso Imenu. Imtim Slomer Kawan Imenu Safik Ro Open Emel Safik Eno Open Emel. My Kadosh Baruch Hu ain't okay. So if you bring a gift to a king, you're not sure if he's going to accept it. And even if he does accept it, you're not sure if you're going to be able to see him. But God is not like that. Adam knows in Prutolani, if you give a poor man a penny, you'll have the ability to see the face of God. As it says, Ani b'tzedek achut. Ani b'tzedek achzeh panecha. Echazeh panecha. Espa'a ba'kitz tmunosecha. I will, with tzedakah, see your face. When I wake up, I will see your image. So what does that pasuk mean? So it means as follows. Amar Nachman bar Yitzchak Ehu Talmidei Chachamim. Oh, excuse me. Ani b'tzedek achzeh panecha espa'a ba'kitz tmunosecha. Rabbi Elazar yav pruto l'ani v'adar matzli. Rabbi Elazar would give money to the poor and then he would pray. This is the idea that when you daven, you're supposed to give tzedakah every time you daven. Hamar d'chsev, he says, because it says Ani b'tzedek achzeh panecha. This refers to Torah scholars. They don't sleep. They push away sleep in this world. They wake up early to do the daf yomi. God will nourish them with the splendor of the divine presence in the world to come. The one who lends to God is the one who gives money to the poor. If it weren't written, if this pasuk wasn't explicit in Proverbs, it would be impossible to say kaviyachol. It's as though we're saying eved lovel ishmalved, that the borrower is a slave to the lender, and we give money to the poor. It's like we're lending money to God. That wealth will not help you on the day of anger. Charity saves you from death. Uksiv. And then there's another verse that says, Lo yo ilu otrosh rasha tzedakah. And then there's another verse from Proverbs which says that all the money banks, all the banks in the world will not help the wicked person, and then the charity will save you from death. So what does this mean? Why do we need it to say twice in the verse, charity will save you from death? Why do we need that twice? So one is it saves you from an unusual death, a difficult death, and one is it saves you from the judgment of Gehenna. Which is the one that saves you from the judgment of Gehenna. The one that says on the day of your wrath, that your wealth will not save you on the day of the wrath. This day is the day of wrath. What's the one that saves you from? What saves you on top of 10b? What saves you from unusual death, from a premature death? Or on top of 10b, that if you give the money, you don't even know you don't even know who you're giving it to. If you take the money, you don't even know who you're taking it from. What does it mean? No snow. So you give it, you don't know who you're giving it to. That's a very high level of charity. That's excluding the case of Mar Ukva, because we learned in Gemara Suba that he would give the money, but he didn't know he knew who he was giving it to. And so he would drop it and run away, but they didn't know who he was. So one time they ran after him to try and see who was giving them the money. He ran into the oven and his feet burnt because they knew who he was giving it to. He knew who he was giving it to. Where his wife was with him and she gave a higher form of charity. She gave prepared food and he had to put his feet on her feet because she wasn't burned from the oven. And what does it mean? You take it, you don't know who you're taking it from. Unlike Rabbi Abba, because with Rabbi Abba, Gemara Ksubas tells us he would walk and he would throw the money behind him. So he didn't know, they knew who they were taking it from. He didn't know who he was giving it to. So that's also not the highest form of charity because they at least know who's giving it to them. What should you do? What's the highest form of charity? This is every federation in the world should put this up on their front door. Give it to a communal fund. Give it to a communal fund, then you don't know who's giving it and you don't know who's getting it. That's the highest form of charity. But there's a caveat. What's the caveat? What should a person do in order to have male children? The commentaries say it doesn't really mean male children. It means children who have this male quality of being aggressive and conquering, meaning impacting the world. Rabbi Lazar Omer, your father ma'usav la'aniyim, give the money to the poor. Rabbi Yeshua says, Yismach ishto with bar mitzvah, that he should make his wife happy. He should make his wife happy when they're romantic. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says, "Well, yitin adam pruto arnaki shel tzedakah." So this is the caveat: you can't give money to a communal fund for charity. Elam kain memuna alach Rabbi Chananya ben Teradion, unless he was the person in charge of it is on the level of Rabbi Chananya ben Teradion. He's such a trustworthy person. The Gemara in Tainus tells us that Rabbi Chananya ben Teradion didn't eat the whole week. He didn't eat the whole week. But how are you going to find somebody who's like, there's only one person like that in Jewish history. So how are you going to find somebody like that? It means that he has certain qualities. He has certain qualities that are the same as Rabbi Hananya ben Teradion. So Kikarminan the Mamani alak Rabbi Hananya ben Teradion. So therefore, so he says, yeah, that's what I mean when I said that you should give your money to the charity box. I'm talking about that you appoint a person like Rabbi Hananya ben Teradion. Amar Rabbi Avo, Amar Moshe Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rabbanu Shalom, B'ma tarum carrying Israel. With what will the Jewish people be strengthened? Amar Lo b'chi tisa. When you give the money, when you give the shkolim to the temple, that when you give charity, that will be something that exalts the Jewish people. Amar Rabbi Avo, Shlomo ben David. So they asked the question to Shlomo, the son of David, Ad hechan kol chashal tzedakah. Where is the power of charity? Amar lan tzur mapi reish David Abba. Go and see what my father David explained. Pizer nasan levyonim. If you spread out money to the poor, it's a kaso medes la'ad. Then if you spread out money to the poor, your charity will last forever. And karno tarum bechavod, and your strength will be exalted with honor. So Rabbi Rabbi Abba says the power of charity is learned out from here. And it says in Isaiah, he will dwell up high and securely. And it's basically mitzados laim miskabo. It's as though he has like a fortress of rocks surrounding him. Rachmoni tan meimav ne'amanim. And his bread he gives, and his water is trusted. What's the reason he's doing securely? It's because he's giving food to the poor. He says, what is a person in the world to come? He says, those people that they give them honor in this world because of their wisdom and not because of their wealth. So those people are worthy of the world to come. Kiha, the Rabbi Yosef, the Yosef prayed to Rabbi Yoshua, like Rabbi Yosef, the son of Rabbi Yoshua, Choash. He once got very sick. He had a near-death experience. Ingid, he thought he was about to die. And Amrway Avua, my chazis. So his father said to him, what did you see in your near-death experience? He says, Amrway, Olam Hafuch Ra'iti. I saw an opposite world, the opposite world, upside-down world, in heaven. Elyonim Lamata, the Tachtonim Lamala. When I got up to the next world, everybody up here who's above in that world is below, and everybody who's below here is above in the next world. Meaning to say the wealthy people were below, and the poor people were above. So everything was the opposite. Amrulay on Barur Ra'isa. You saw a clear world. That's the way it's supposed to be. And he said, okay, but what about the rabbis? How did we end up? We got the same, just like we were considered down here, that people honor us, so too they honor us up there. And I heard them saying, fortunate is the one who comes here with his Torah study in his hand. And I heard that they were saying those people who were Haruge Malchus, those people who were killed by the persecution by the Romans, nobody is able to stand with them. Who are these people who were killed by the Romans, by the Haruge Malchus? If you want to say it's the 10 martyrs, Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues, Mishum Sharuge Malchus Vesulo. You think they got to heaven because they were killed by the Romans, and that's it? These were the greatest Torah scholars. Pshita B'Lavachinami. El Aruge wood. And it refers to the people, the brothers of wood. Who are these? These are Linus and Pappus. That Tyrannius, the Russia, killed them in wood because they were there was a princess, Roman princess, was found dead, and they said, we're going to kill the whole city. So these two brothers confessed to the killing, even though it wasn't them. So they took ones for the team. What do we do with the verse? And now the Gemara is going to cite a verse from Proverbs, and the Gemara is going to give 6 explanations of it. Tzedakah to Romaim guy, charity will exalt a guy, a nation in the singular. V'chesed u'umim chatas, and kindness for the nations is a sin. So why is kindness a sin, and why is that in the plural for the nations? And why is charity exalt one nation? Nana Rabbi Lazar Amar, number 1, Tzedakah Romim Guy, charity will exalt a nation. Elu Yisrael. The Guy here is the Jewish people, as it says. Jewish people are called the Goy. The kindness will be a sin for the nations. Called Tzedakah. Any charity and kindness that the nations of the world do, that the idolaters do, it's actually a sin for them. They do this sin only to exalt themselves, as it states in the book of Ezra, that Koresh he said he's going to bring sacrifices. He says, pray for my kingdom. They're doing it for themselves. Gemara says, what's so bad about that? You're allowed to give charity so that you be saved. But Tanya, Omer, Sela, Zel, it's tzedakah b'shvil sheyichyu b'ni, shvil she'ezkel, olam abba, raise it tzedakah gomor. If you say I'm going to give this charity so that my this was a Gemara in Psachim, we did it at the bottom of 8a and the top of, and then it goes to the top of 8b. If he says I'm going to give this charity so my son will be saved, that's or that so that I get to the world to come, that's valid charity. So Gemara says, "Lokasha kam b'Yisrael kam bo b'cham." Well, it depends if you're an idolater or a Jew. If you're a Jew, it's okay because even if it doesn't work out, you're not going to reject God. Now, second approach, how do we interpret this verse? Now, Rabbi Shua ve'omer tzaddik teromim goy. That refers to Elu Yisrael. What does that refer to? Called tzedakah v'chesed she'umas ovdei chavim osin cheituachen. Whenever the idolaters or the nations in the world do charity, it's a sin for them. They only do it so that their kingdom will be extended, as it says in Daniel, Lahain Malka Malki Yishparo Echa. You're the king, and let my advice be good in your eyes. What should you do? Redeem your charity, and redeem your sins. And what you need to do to extend your kingdom is to give the charity. But then Rabbi Gamliel Amar, third approach, Sadik Teromim El Yisrael, Dachsim Mikam Yisrael, the Chesed Umim Chatas, called Tzedakah V'Chesed Shav Dechavim Osin Cheitu Lahen, Shein Osin El Yaherbo. Why do the idolaters do a sin? Just to be exalted, arrogant, proud. They want their names on the building. Call Messiah or no Ganem, and whoever is arrogant ends up in hell. So when they do these charity, they're doing it to be arrogant, and therefore they're going to end up in hell. As it says, Zayd Yahir late Shemo Oseba Evras Zadon. Ve'en Evra Gohanim. That's Ganem, as it says, Yom Evra Hayomahu. A fourth approach says Rabbi Gamliel, Adayan. We still need the Modayim. Why? What did the Modai say? This is Rabbi Eliezer. Modai says, Tzedakah Teromim Gai Elu Yisrael Tachsev Mikam Chayisrael Gai Achat Chesed Umim Chatas. This is called Tzedakah V'Chesed She'ovdei Kochavim Osin Cheitu Achem. Any charity and kindness that the idolaters do is a sin for them. She'ein Osin El Charif Osanovo. They're only doing it to basically rebuke us with it, as it says. That Nebuzaradan rebuked Jeremiah. So they're giving this charity. Even when they do it, they're doing it. Even when he released Jeremiah from his chains, he was rebuking him. So we see that the only reason why they give charity is to rebuke us with it. And fifth approach, no, he says, say like this. It's charity will exalt the nation and kindness, Yisrael, meaning to say, the kindness goes to the Jewish people, that the charity and the kindness that they do will exalt us. But for the nations of the world, it's chatas, it's a sin. Sixth approach, Rabbi Nechunya ben Akanya is even better than my words. Fishu knows saying Yisrael gives the charity and the kindness to the Jewish people, and to the idolaters they get a sin. So what was his approach? So he also had an approach. What was his approach? Meaning to say, just like charity is an atonement for the Jewish, just like the sin offering will be an atonement for the Jewish people, so too charity will be an atonement for the nations of the world. That's the equivalent of their sin offering. And the Gemara gives us a story about this. Ifra Hormuz, Ema de Shabor Malka. There was a woman named Ifra Hormuz who was the mother of King Shabor. Shaja Arba Mea Dinar Kamei to Rabbi Ami. She sent 400 dinar to Rabbi Ami. So this woman was not Jewish. She sent 400 dinar to Rabbi Ami to distribute the tzedakah. Below Kiblinu, he didn't want to take it. Shadrinu Kamei to Rava the Kibli. So she sent it. They said, "Oh, we're not taking money from you," but Rava took the money. Mishum Shlom Malchus. He said, "Listen, I don't want to get into a fight with the king." Shema Rabbi Ami Yikbid. Rabbi Ami was upset. Amar Leisley, don't you know that you're not supposed to take the money from the idolaters? It says in Isaiah, Beivosh Kitzira Tisha Barna, when the branches dry out, they're going to fall on their own. Meaning to say that basically they're going to break when they don't have any merits. You're letting them get merits. Nashim Baos Mirososa, that taking this from them, you're helping them. So Rava, why did he take him? Mishum Shalom Malchus. Rava says, I had no choice. I wanted to help them because otherwise we're going to be in a fight with them and they're the kings. Rabbi Ami Nami Mishum Shalom Malchus. So why does why did Rabbi Ami also understand this, that you can't turn down money from the government without fighting with the king? Yeah, because Rabbi Ami thought he said, yeah, Rabbi should take it, but he should have distributed to the poor idolaters. Rabbi Nami Aniyov Dekhavi Avinu. But Rabbi gave it. He didn't understand. He didn't see the end of the story. Rabbi gave it to the poor. Rabbi Yami Dekbidhu, the Simu Kame. Rabbi Yami didn't see that. That's what he did. That's what Rabbi did with the money. Okay, there's a lot here. I went very quickly, obviously, but a lot of very powerful ideas in this stuff. Bottom line is that you see the power of tzedakah, the great power of giving tzedakah. We'll say.